Hi, good morning, and thanks for joining me here in my shop. Today is March 16th. It's been a couple days since I posted a video on this radio. Not from lack of work on it. I did something with this radio I don't normally do, and that is I replaced the capacitors in kind of groups. I did 2 groups and didn't do a lot of radio testing as I changed the capacitors. And I'm all done. The radio's behaving weird. I don't know if putting in the capacitors revealed a weirdness that was in there, or if I did something wrong with the capacitors. I spent the last couple of days going over this. I can't even remember what I posted in the last video. I ended up finding 2 mistakes I had made with capacitors. One I had actually positioned incorrectly, and the other one, you know, I didn't find it on my own. In the middle of me hunting and poking around this radio, doing things like I replaced every tube one at a time to see if I would correct the problem. And I didn't really mention what the problem was. The problem was out of control oscillation appearing to come from the IF itself. The IF was oscillating. The way you can spot that is as you tune in signals, a heterodyne comes in excuse me, with it. Well, anyway, in the middle of me doing all kinds of stuff to try to track down what I assume is my error, I got an email, thank you Thomas, querying me about the wisdom of having installed a 0.01 microfarad capacitor to replace a 0.08. Well, I would agree. That's not wise at all, but I never did that. I put a 0.1 in, didn't I? When I checked, I had actually put a 0.01. So this is really quite shocking to me. I carefully spent a long time verifying the positions of all the capacitors I had changed under here. I never spent any time checking the size. I hadn't gotten around to that yet. It didn't cross my mind, and I was absolutely certain that particular capacitor, the 0.08, was replaced with a 0.1. But it wasn't. So once I corrected that error, put a proper size capacitor in, all the problems disappeared in this radio. Now, along the way, I've aligned this radio a couple of times during that process, trying to kind of align out the problem in case it had something to do with alignment, and of course it didn't. I got all hung up in one of these transformers, thinking the IF transformer can itself, or the coils inside, were the source of the problem. No, that's kind of an interesting thing in itself, so let's just dwell on that. So early on, and I'm sure this is on video, I went to doing it's on video. I may not have posted it. I can't recall now. When I put the tool into the top of this can to make adjustments, just touching it ever so slightly sent this radio off into no man's land. The sensitivity was super duper high. So I became concerned that something had happened inside here. I don't really know what can happen. I mean, it's inside of a protective can, but I got more and more convinced the problems were in here. In the end, the problem was the 0.08 capacitor replaced with a 0.01 instead of a 0.1. What that capacitor was doing was draining out signals from the chassis that might be collecting or building or received by the chassis acting like an antenna, to take those signals and stuff them into the B minus, to drain them out of here and return them to B minus. That's one way of looking at it. That's why I like to look at it, as draining stuff out. Of course, it's not really the case. There's nothing building up in it if you have those capacitors in place. So the capacitor I failed to put the right size in was draining the chassis. So these tubes have metal cans on them, these 3, and those cans need to be drained also. If you just leave them floating, then you have a metal antenna right over top of your tube, and you can just imagine that. That's not going to work out well. All the elements inside the tube are going to be affected by whatever's going on with this. So these are drained, and this radio, they aren't just soldered down to the chassis, which would be a typical thing. You take pin 1 on these tubes, solder it to the chassis. But that's not what was done. Instead, they put a little filter there with a resistor and a capacitor, exactly the same as how they're draining the chassis back to the negative, back to the B minus. Except they don't drain it to the B minus, they drain it to the chassis. So with this, connected to the chassis, and the chassis is supposed to drain, everything would be fine. But since the drain on the chassis was clogged with a small capacitor, these things must have been, these shells must have been involved in the feedback issue that was occurring through here. So why touching this? Well, if the chassis isn't drained out properly, then there's stuff up in these cans too, because the cans are attached metallically right to the chassis. So the chassis is singing some tunes. These cans will sing it too, and they're right around the coils. So almost certainly this is really the cause of the problem. And if I touch this, it would change mechanically the connection between the can and the chassis. It's not a soldered connection. It's just a mechanical connection with some pretty strong clips down here. So there you can see one there. Pretty strong clips. These things are clipped down. But if you twist them, they move. That little bit of movement is changing the way this is connected to the chassis, changed the whole feedback situation or oscillation situation in the radio or whatever. And just the slightest little touch here would cause that. With nothing to do with this. But 3 times I got really close to removing this from the radio. Three times. I unclipped it. I tried pulling the can off. And I haven't posted these videos, but 3 times I approached this, and each time I would stop just before I'm going to cut the wires and say, well, I'm going to think about this some more, and walk away. I came really close to removing this from the radio, which might have been the end of the radio, frankly. That's not something you want to get into. You don't really want to remove these things from a radio like this. So thank you again, Thomas. You saved me from myself. I was right at the end of my bucket of things I could think of. I was getting ready to start butchering this radio, when in fact it was just a capacitor that I put the wrong size in. So that's the story. And if you do this kind of work, I'm sure you've got stories something like that, except you probably don't get saved by people watching videos of you making your mistakes. Okay, so that means the radio's in good shape. It is in good shape. It is aligned. I've fixed up the cabinet. I've glued it all up. It's ready to go. I fixed the knobs and cleaned them up. I've glued them all back together. These are all things I was doing when I didn't know what else to do with this the motorboating radio here. So what am I going to do now? It is really pretty close, ready to go back in the cabinet, but I think I'm going to run it through the alignment. I'll do an alignment check on it. So what we'll do is we'll play it. I have the antenna booster here. We'll hear what it's working, how it works, just receiving. We'll check the alignment very quickly, and then from there it's back in the cabinet, and then we're seeing it for what it finally is. Okay, that's a plan. That's a plan. So of course one of the things I've been doing is getting the cabinet ready. This is one of the challenges with this radio, and I think all others like it are going to have the same problem. This was loose in the radio when the radio came to me. I don't really know what happened to it. I really haven't investigated it fully yet, but I'm just cleaning it. I thought I'd talk about just cleaning this kind of stuff a little bit. So I checked to make sure there's no print on this surface. It's all on the back. This is just a smooth piece of plastic. This is not brittle. It's actually got quite a bit of flexibility in it. It's kind of surprising. So to clean this surface, I'm just using soap, like a dish detergent type soap, and start with a fair bit of water. And so I'm trying my best not to touch the underlying part, because for all I know, those numbers are ready to come off. They don't seem that way, but I have been fooled before. You know, this is one of the major features of every radio, is the dial. And I spend a lot of time fixing up a radio so it works, and then stick a dirty old dial back together. That's just not going to work. That's not. So now the real question is, though, how do I clean the other side of it? Incidentally, I'd like to show you something about cleaning radios here. Every good radio has specks of paint on it. There isn't a good radio in this world that does not have specks of paint. Yeah. I think just about every radio that I work on in here, if you look hard enough, you can find specks of paint. Now, I'm going to try the backside here, but I already see that something has happened in here. And actually the coating is completely gone in this area. It's actually clear. So I think the coating is gone. I can see there's a pile of glue here. This may be original glue, all poured in here. Probably to try to stick this down. You know, I bet you it's not original. The glue flakes off in chunks and takes the paint with it. So the glue is gone here, but it didn't take the paint. Here it took the paint. Here it didn't. Here it is. This is all glue. So the last thing I want to do is bend this thing, come to think of it, hard enough to cause the glue to fracture. The glue is hard. And then start taking more of this off. I don't want that to happen. And what about these numbers? You'd hope they put this on strong enough that you can just wipe. I'm just going to try down here. Often it's very loose, easy to get off dust back here that can come off with hardly any contact. Again, no soap, just barely damp. Looks pretty good to me. It really does. I think I can be a little more aggressive here. No use cleaning the back of this opaque material. It's all about where the numbers are. As I say, I've done this with other radios, and right in the middle of it, I realized, oh my gosh, 5% of the numbers have disappeared. Not so with this one. And there's nothing more disappointing than having this as the last stage of your radio repair job, and you ruin it. I'm telling you, I've been there. Even with a lot of care. I can already see a little bit of the 0 on the 70 is missing. I'm not sure why, but otherwise everything else is there. Good. So I think this is going to come out pretty good. Now I don't know. I mean, it's misshapen. So how's this going to fit in here? How do you even fix it in place? Hey, those are all good questions. Now, let's just explore this a little bit. So here's where I've glued the crack in the side all the way up here. Just checking the hardness of the... I used epoxy, I'm just checking its hardness. Somebody drilled a hole through this radio. Goodness knows why. It looks like a hole, or somehow something got smashed through. You know, I just applied glue on here to try to freeze any of the crack. It's not so much cracked as shattered from whatever happened there. Is that really a hole that needs to be there? So, I decided to leave the speaker in place rather than remove it and just take the risk of cracking these screw mounts or anything. There's no reason to take it out. How the heck does this thing go in there? So I can see that the plastic here is shaped. And this is the front of the metal grill. So it must be up against this shape. And of course this thing is misshapen. So let me change this. I'm fighting gravity. Let's get gravity on my side here. Okay, with gravity's help. Wow, this is... Yeah, fixing radios comes down to stuff like this. It's just a great big hole. What am I going to hold it with? It looks like these two curved end pieces are the opportunity to glue it. You glue it just in two spots, like here and here. The thing is, when the radio goes in, like I can just put a little glue here, a little glue there. When the radio goes in, the curve on this may not agree. may not agree with the radio. Like for instance, just looking over here for a minute. This is curved and is sticking out a certain amount, and it's supposed to, I guess, you know, follow the curve there, but this is pinched on the ends. So yeah, wow. I can't really control any of this, because this is going to end up where it's going to end up, and this is going to end up where it's going to end up. I haven't got much play. The chassis bottom holes aren't even slots, they're holes. They're going to fix the radio in a very particular place. I think the only way to proceed on this is to mock it up somehow, tape this temporarily in place, put the radio together, and examine what the consequences are. And you know, maybe that's worth doing right now, just from a sort of a test, or get my eyes open point of view, so I know what I'm up against here. So yeah, I'll figure out how to tack this in there with some tape, and then I'll be able to see how it relates to the position of the radio. I think I'm going to pursue this a little bit. So rather than trying to put tape on this, because I'm worried if I tape it here and I go to pull the tape off, that paint is going to come off just like it came off here. I've got a little bit of putty, and I'm hoping this is enough to just hold it in place. What kind of putty is this? This is something my wife had for hanging something up. I think it'll be okay though. So just a little bit here. And a little tiny dot over here. As long as you can hold it on there. Oh, it's not sticking at all. Give it a shot. Okay, and what did I do with the thing? Here it is. So if this does put a mark on the front or something, it's not visible where I'm doing this. That's the advantage of using the putty here. This might be actually, yeah, this is revealing how to do this on a permanent basis too. Just like I'm doing it now. Just glue right in these spots. Okay, so that's puttied in. And we just have to undo the radio here from everything. It's not much. Okay, just okay. There we go. Now I've also cleaned this back panel. I may have caught that on video or may not have. I cleaned this back panel. Regular soap wouldn't do it. I used TSP, which is a very strong cleaner. Which can burn paint off things and everything. But it did the job. Dramatically different from regular detergent type soap. Okay, so now we want to watch this carefully. We're trying to watch the how the oh yeah, good luck. how the pointer gets in there. Okay, so it looks like it's just out there where it starts coming into contact. Yeah, I can see it's so the slider pointer is in contact with the front plastic there. So that's another sign of problems. I think the plastic has dropped off. I don't think the putty held it. Or maybe I touched it. So there's the putty. No, it's still held. It's held up. There's another indication. If I put glue here, be a little careful about it coming out the front. I don't like the idea of glue. It's a little permanent. So you can see now from the pointer's behavior that it's pinned down here. And you can also see this large gap is open. So I've probably got this just up too high. And it's got General Electric. You can bet they wanted that to be visible, but this thing has curled. It's curled itself back. It's yeah, that's what's happened. The curl is way too tight, especially down here. But I guess sticking it lower doesn't help much on this. It's like the wisest thing is to have it stuck as far forward as possible. And get rid of this bottom gap for sure. How can I get it further forward? I don't think it can go forward further. The lower I stick it, the more it will rotate this way. Or when I stick it, no, the lower you stick it, the more it rotates. And it'll free the bottom up so the pointer won't drag. And you don't want the pointer dragging on the back of these things. Eventually it scratches a line. And the line can go right through the middle in some of these radios. This actually came out pretty nice after cleaning it up. I mean, it's nice. It's workable. Another option is to trim off parts of the bent plastic that are interfering, but boy, I don't want to get into that, I don't think. So is the radio all the way forward? Is it where it wants to be? So there's another thing we can see how it's running into it here. Appears to be applying pressure in all the corners, and that's probably the back panel. It's probably coming up and pushing on the curved parts, pushing them back out a little bit. And there's an advantage that can be gained with that. So the radio's probably like this normally, and this is just really jammed up. Now it's not really jammed, it's springing forward and hitting the bottom. So another thing I can do is make this pointer ride lower. It's springing out right now. Make it ride lower, and then I'll get away with more of this part not fitting right. Yeah, that's really a key part of this, is to get the pointer to ride down against the back panel properly. It's probably where it is because it took a beating at some point, got yanked up or something. So I get all that. Rotate this a little lower. No, stick it. No, don't rotate it. If I rotate this, it's going to scoop in even harder. I don't want to rotate it. Just want to kind of, yeah. all this for a dial, right, on a radio. And then there's, of course, the left and right issue. There's not much play in this one. It's sized so it just makes it to these edges. So it can't be left or right wrong. And I think if you took the General Electric symbol, I can just see it here, and you just drew straight up, you want to go right through the center. That's probably a center marker there. So sure, looks perfect in that respect. There's no room for error there. You can't really go wrong. The worn off part is down here where you don't really see it, because when the light comes on in here, it's going to come through here. So I do have an option of trying to paint this out from behind. I don't know about that. So getting the pointer back, really important. Fixing this in when I go to do it, so that there's no gap down here and the bottom is out as far as possible. The top of the slider is held back by the slide panel, so it can't change. And there's lots of clearance up there, I think. Is there? Hard to say for sure. Once the dial is glued in place, there's the only option then is to decide how far forward to bring this radio, and it's because there's no slots underneath, just holes. There's really not much options there either. It's almost as if you're going to have to just kind of pray that this works out in the end. You kind of do everything to make it most likely it'll work out, and then stick it all together and see if it did. Can't have it like this. I'm going to drill a hole right through there. Okay, that reveals everything that has to be done here, I think. At least it gives me some kind of plan. So we're gonna take the radio out, put it here. We're gonna double check the alignment on it, and then it is heading in the cabinet. Okay, so step one is going to be just playing the radio and seeing how well it works. Let's get it on here. There we go. Still don't have the light bulb put back in it yet, so. But yeah, tubes are warming up. So I have a outdoor antenna attached to this loop. This is going to provide a boosted signal here in my shop, give the radio a better chance of picking some stuff up. There you go. So this is the French station. That's an 8. Son of a gun. Okay. Well, it's certainly in the realm. 860 is what we're listening to. Okay, let's just tune around here. That's pretty good. That's pretty good reception. A lot of noise.
Our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic continues now with 680's Laura Carney with the latest international developments.
In Europe, which is now the epicenter of the pandemic, some of the
Doesn't sound right.
top leaders will be holding a meeting today about the coronavirus that is spreading rapidly. In France, where officials say the situation is deteriorating very quickly, they've closed restaurants.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that kind of news around, isn't there? So what I'm hearing is when she speaks, when her voice is coming out, there's I don't want to call it a roar or a hiss, but there's a noise coming with it. Whoops! Oh, we gotta break that off.
Supermarkets and the only businesses that are now open really respecting what they've been told because they understand that it is crucial that this outbreak be pulled under control. And in the U.S., the number of cases of COVID-19 nearing 3,500. Today, Vice President Mike Pence is expected to release new guidelines regarding potential curfews. I'm Laura Carney.
680 News Con 919 at the movies. COVID-19 is taking a toll on the box office.
99.98. That's 224-99.98. Let's face it, some days.
You, JD, is that you, like, I gallows humor, I like just trying through it, like trying to get through stuff by making light of this.
It's a really wide tuning range. Where's it going? Why is it getting quieter? What's happening here? Okay, there's something new. What happened? Son of a gun. Right in front of us. How loud is it? Okay, it's almost no volume. So lots of volume behind it.
Sports news that happened over the weekend, including the NFL, the new CBA, and whatnot. That's next. It's Good Show Bananas, JD Bucket, Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Right now, you can get 0% purchase financing on all new 2020 Ford Explorer models. Visit your local Ford store or Ford.ca.
Through disability benefits been denied.
So does it sound better now that whatever happened happened?
Don't let the insurance company keep you on the injured reserve. If your insurance company has denied your long-term disability claim, contact us for a free
So that's pretty good there. That sounds pretty clear.
Get your long-term disability benefits back and get you.
Now, odds are very good that you have been keeping a close eye, like the rest of us, on Italy. Chris and I.
Seneca. Pacific Tropics in a quick view.
And it's a nice drive, Paul. Maybe on the eastbound Gardner, I should say. As you
There's that noise effect I can hear with the
every
voice.
once in a while they can get backed up, but it's pretty wide open along the eastbound.
True. Like, when have you ever heard me saying we should be hopeful about the weather?
but apparently that...
Et le point que j'ai entendu, c'est que, écoute, c'est pas facile de tout réunir les travailleurs, les
So
travailleurs
one of these tubes is operating with a slightly low heater voltage, maybe more than slightly, around 9 volts when I measured it. It should be 12. That's quite a drop. There's a E squared over R to get power. So there's a big factor here in terms of how much heat is actually being developed in the heater. And when you drop the voltage a little bit, you get quite a significant drop in temperature. The radio is running on 115 volts. I can throw another 10 volts at it, raise all the heaters, raise everything, the B plus, everything will go up a little bit. We'll see if it sounds any different when I do that.
C'est comme si on comprenait par exemple la lenteur de la prise de décision parce qu'on la comprenait, parce qu'on voyait bien que les choses pouvaient s'envenimer, mais c'est comme si cette fois-ci la population canadienne n'est pas patiente c'est comme on ne comprend pas c'est ça, on ne comprend pas la lenteur de l'appareil gouvernemental fédéral parce que là
Sounds the same to me.
il va résoudre.
I don't think we can pick anything else up. Oh, take that back.
Together. Don't be shaking hands. I think even the president finally gets that. No handshaking.
Even the president. There's a phrase. Even the president. Picking up lots of stuff. Well, I don't know what to say. The distorted sound can easily be one of these tubes still, somehow doing that. The incorrect voltage on the output tube could be it. If I popped a 35 L6 into the radio, maybe that sound would be different. I have one, it's not, I can't even call it good. I have one 35 L6 that's right on the reject point when tested in a tester. So considering this radio's general condition, it's probably not worth the effort to try to get rid of that sound, because who knows where it's coming from, that particular weakness. Probably pretty tough to get rid of it. So what's next then? Next is to go ahead and verify the alignment on the radio as best I can. And let's see, to do that, I think I'm going to do something a little bit crude here. I'm going to try to blast the IF frequency into the radio just from this loop here. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's the laziest way to do this. All I really want to do is check to make sure it's 460. A little bit surprised if it was something other than that. Turn this up a bit. And okay, so here's 460. Can't hear a thing, but it's very low. Give it lots of strength here. There it is. Now, you can't read the numbers. Maybe now we can. There you are. 460. Sounds like there's some other signal in the IF, probably coming from the antenna, of course. So now the next thing is the alignment of this radio involves, of course, getting the pointer in the right place and all that kind of stuff. The way this one's done, you open the capacitor all the way and the radio should be tuned to 1620. 1620. So just line this up briefly, roughly. So, you know, we're around 1600. Doesn't look like 1620 to me. 1620 would be over here, but I don't know where this is exactly. Maybe, you know what? This is probably perfectly balanced between these knobs. That's probably where it is. So if I try to balance this, yeah, we're right around 1620. Are we really though? Okay, so with the radio capacitor fully open, Let's find out what frequency we're tuned to here. Should be 1620. $15.60. Wow. I'm saying wow because I've done this a number of times, and every time I check this radio, it does not come back to 1620 at the top here. What is going on? Why would that be? We're running it with full voltage. Let me put it back to a more normal supply voltage. That should have no effect on this radio at all in terms of its tuning. It's a disaster if a radio is sensitive to the supply voltage. Okay? Way off. Way off. Huh, okay, well, that's why I'm doing this. So the alignment is done with this screw here. This is the oscillator alignment, and we're going to want it to be a 1620. Okay, we're gonna find 1620 here. So okay, so 1620 on the signal generator. Let's find it. There it is. Watching the meter. Still hear it? Lots of noise now. This is too difficult to do at this level because of the overwhelming noise level. Get a little more signal there. Just trying to do this at the lowest signal level I can get away with. Have to depend on the sound in your ears. Again, the noise is just overwhelming it. So that's definitely set now. 1620 at the top. The bottom. Now it doesn't actually say what the bottom should be, but we're going to find out anyway. Let's find out. There. Another beautiful sunny day outside. So I think I heard two peaks on this radio when I adjusted it just now. $530. 560. Coming down. 530. 560 rather. And again at 530. Wow. Well, so what the heck is doing that? How can you find two in here? So the local oscillator is what's mixing with the signal here. Maybe there's another signal in there that's pretending to be the local oscillator, a noise signal. We could investigate this further, but I'd rather not, just because I've already invested way too much time into this radio. Way too much time. So there's always another radio coming. We can always do investigations of unusual things that occur with one radio and investigate them on the next. It's possible to do. Why would I be concerned about this in some way? How is this going to ruin the radio? 590. Yeah, it might be happening right at the end of the capacitor. At the last moment, the capacitor may reverse operation. It may, you know, I'm closing the capacitor, but at the last moment, it may swing past a bit and start opening again. Does that make any sense at all? So we're right at the end of the capacitor operation, so it's odd. It's definitely odd. Visually, it doesn't look like what I just said is true. Well, I'm only hearing this in one spot, so I'm worried about nothing, maybe. Okay, next thing is, so we've verified the IF is at 460. We've adjusted the oscillator based on the manual. For this, we are following the procedure in the manual. Now we tune to roughly 1500. So we know this is 1620 now. 1500 would be roughly there. Let's get rid of this helper antenna. Oh, that's coming from the signal generator. Let's not get rid of that. So what we want to do now is put a signal in, tune the radio onto that signal fully, properly, and then make adjustments here and here. So we're up around 1500. Let's just tune a little, a little bit. We can't find a slightly quieter spot. Two things happening again. The noise is so loud you can't even pick up the signal over it. The noise signals in my shop are very powerful. Without watching what's happening with the ADC, it's hard to tell if you're getting to a dead spot or an unmodulated noise signal spot. Gotta pick something here. Okay, I like this spot. I think that's as tuned as I can get it. Next adjustment is the RF adjustment. Going for maximum. Seems to be two spots. So this is like open. I can go more open. The meter stays where it is. If I close it now, the meter goes down. Then it comes back up. And then it goes back down. Two things again. How do you get two things? I kind of like this one. This one's got a nice beat to it. On that, and then the antenna adjustment. was pretty good. 2 peaks. 2 peaks. Did I just fix it with that? Let's go listening. I don't have the helper on. That's what's wrong. I need the helper.
By the way, this is Leaf Breakfast with Darren Trigger, TSN Hockey Insider, Lanesburg, Goliath, about here on First Up.
I think this is Kalito. Kalito.
Maybe at no point do you think that
Je peux pas me permettre de stopper.
Parce
Il y a
que donc,
limité.
vous n'allez pas fermer. Est-ce que mais vous allez respecter donc cette règle de 50% de votre capacité?
That sounds better.
Bien sûr,
The
nous
distortion
l'avons,
I was
dit
complaining
en fait,
about seems to be
dès
gone.
hier, dès l'annonce. Ça a bien fonctionné, bien sûr. Les clients étaient très heureux de pouvoir venir s'attabler chez nous. On était
basis points last night. Keep in mind, this comes from a 50 basis point cut, emergency cut that happened last week.
Man, I tell you.
So, hot business. Mercedes Jennifer Holman is here with details.
sometimes we need a laugh, and Rick Harrison, HomeWealth.com, or call 1-877-8-SILVER. 5001.
So it goes to the thing where if there's no sports on TV,
This is last station is being tuned in 2 spots. And if I turn the camera, you'll see them.
that's going up against
One.
any type of professional sport is going by the wayside. I could
2.
Warriors or Wizards Bulls over that, you know. I'm watching the Blackhawks for that. So yeah, it's weird. But
1.
do you think the UFC is doing this?
2. That's really weird.
A lot of this in the block.
By glass and the keeping social distance, David and I think we're all, some of us are really losing sleep over this.
It's quite a wide range, the tuning on this radio.
We'll talk to an expert on how to deal with anxiety later on in the show. But I think it is important that we have coping mechanisms. We take this seriously, but
The wider the
our health, and our mental health
the
is,
range, the more stuff can come through to the speaker, including noises that you'd like to be suppressing. You're unable to suppress them.
Get home soon, and things could change any day when it comes to travel bans. All international flights now are coming into and out of Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary. That is it. And globally, as we just learned from Joanne Natale, who's in Milan, over 24,000 cases of coronavirus.
So I'm listening to the noise. This
confirmed. 1,800
this
people have died.
rumbly noise.
Are not normal, but that's important. And I think the Italians are dealing with it as best they can. I think, Dave, we have some audio of Italians singing. This is what they're doing. You can hear a cranky dog in the background. All right, I'm trying to get some sleep here. But it is beautiful, and it's all about connection and the extension of Piazza Life and showing people that they're not alone. Spain is in partial lockdown. The PM's wife, much like ours, has been confirmed positive for COVID-19. France is shut down as well. Australia
Just got quieter.
against the law to by itself isolate.
It's just a hair trigger volume. There's lots of volume in this radio.
I wonder if Canada should have been following suit, By the way, Chris, there was rumors going on yesterday on social media. What were you hearing?
all over the place. People were texting me and asking me if I knew anything about it, that there was going to be a lockdown of everything in Ontario, of everything in Toronto.
All over the world, the same thing is happening, and good luck to all of us. Good luck to all of us. Just on the COVID-19 thing, my wife and I have accepted that we will probably get sick, and having thought about that has forced us to realize a couple things. One is if we're both sick, like too sick to go out, you're not supposed to go out if you're sick, then we're in trouble. That's really where it's going to start for us if we both get sick. And judging from the virility of COVID-19, if one of us gets sick, the other one will get sick too. So we're pretty concerned. We're not panicky or anything like that. But yeah, it's hard not to be a little scared of this kind of stuff. So anyway, I think the radio's got to go into cabinet at this point. I think it's pretty much finished. I can't see that I'm going to wring any more out of this guy. It's working fairly well now. Great. Okay, back to the cabinet with them. Okay, before I forget, let's try and bend back this needle pointer. This might be too big. Yeah, they're not going to work. Too big and clumsy. Put these guys here. It's not easy to get a hold of this. Like that, I guess. Now that worked. There, that's down. Go a little bit further. That's the spring that's lifting it from behind. That's as good as it's going to get. That's good. Okay. And now the last thing is trying to glue that cover, which I went back to cleaning even more. It's getting better every time I clean it. Glue that. Glue it or some other way of attaching it in the cabinet here. Now remember, some of the keys were getting it low. Getting it right side up would be good too. If I ever put this in upside down, that would be sad. Looks like the only place I can glue it is here on the edges. And now my choice of glue. So I can hit this with epoxy. I'll probably hold it. I could use that shoe glue, which I believe it remains flexible. So I don't think we need flexibility. I think it's got to be epoxy. It's got to go in. Oh boy, how's it go? I think I just need to do that. I don't want it to be open at the top. The light's going to come through. So that's the key. Bring it down as low as you dare. So it's not open at the top. If I use epoxy and this doesn't work, what am I going to do? I don't know. This is curled so much, maybe that's going to crash into the front of the radio and the pointer and everything. You know what? This slides up under this piece here. Really? Is that what it's supposed to do? I don't think so. Is that really what it's supposed to do? Stick out on the front? That's what it would do. It would stick out on the front if I did it like that. Oh, maybe originally it was done like that. Oh, you know what? That really feels, it really feels right. And then what it looks like is it just curled from the bottom. It just curled up from the bottom. If I could you know, there's a place it can go. Don't finish that sentence. oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Epoxy is permanent. Shoe glue not. Let's try a little shoe glue on there. It's just a type of glue. It will glue. It will dry fairly solid. Let's try. Okay. Now, gotta kind of work from the front and the back at the same time. So just get this on the edge here. Other edge. Okay, very carefully now. Kind of get one shot. Well, you don't get one shot. You get to move it around a bit. Tip it, tip it, tip it. And I'll probably just have to stand here for an hour holding it the way I've done this. Big gap at the bottom. So down, big gap at the top too. Gap at the top and the bottom. I thought I had that figured out. Not really. Okay, gap at the bottom is more pleasant than gap at the top. Gap at the top is really ugly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go for the, what does this look like if I fit it right in at the top? You could actually fill this with something else if you really wanted to. Okay, I think this is the idea. We're going up. Up. Right there. Right in there. I'll worry about filling this. And maybe in the end I'll even have to trim to the bottom somehow. Oh my god, how am I ever going to do that once it's in? Let's hope I don't have to. Okay, so I think I'm stuck like this now for a while. Oh, you don't want to watch. Okay. Okay, I am trying to stop the recording. Okay, so this got glued in. It's stuck in there, but if the radio is going to go in and well, we're going to find out. Put the radio in, see what happens. No use saying anything, just do it. Before I put the radio in, I'm going to put the light bulb back in. Oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. Look at this thing. To watch this. Let's see if we can get a look at the filament for that bulb. Oh boy, it's all pulled out. It's all over the place in there. Whew. Does this bulb even work? I think it does. Look at it. It's all over the place in there. Am I seeing that right? Ay, ay, ay. So, in watching Mayday, that's the show about airplane accidents, one of the things that they do in some airplane accidents, they will pull these lights out and they can tell which lights were on and which ones weren't, because the ones that were on, the filament will be broken in them, and the ones that were off, the filament will still be there. The broken ones broke because when the plane crashed, it wrapped the bulb so hard the filament just got flung out of it. But if the filament's cold, it doesn't break. Well, I'm going to just put the ohm meter on that, but I don't have any alternative lights for it, for sure. That's a kind of an unusual bulb. Let's see what it says anyway. I think I saw it on though. Let's take a look. 2 contacts in the base. Well, I assume the 2 contacts at the bottom are the contacts. That's not too good. Maybe not though. Maybe they go to the side. Well, did I check the meter? Yeah. I think this is burned out. Oh, no, that's my finger. I'm on 20 megohms for crying out loud. I think she's a dud. I thought I saw it on. Well, I think it's a dud. I think I'm going to put it in. Again, I don't have any bulb like this. Am I sure about that? I don't know. I better just double check here. I keep a container of kind of oddball bulbs. Or oddball things. Wow, that's pretty close to the right thing right there. It's for your car. So any double posted bulbs here. Ooh, that was close. Single. I don't remember having any, so I don't think I do. Have to be. That's another single. 3 of these big singles. 4 of them. Where'd I steal those from? What's that? Who can recognize that? Foomp! That's the sound it makes when it operates. I've got all kinds of these single guide bulbs. Wow, but none of them are double. Would that be of any use? Could this be of any use? These are probably low voltage bulbs though. 12 volts. This is a 120 volt bulb. That's kind of neat. Filament looks like it's in place in there too. Well, it's always fun to look through your stuff, you know, and remind yourself what you got. That's an LED bulb. I didn't know. Okay, well, no chance of having a replacement bulb here. You could probably order them. Now, if the bulb doesn't work, what else could I do? 120 volts there. What could I do? What could I do? And in this kind of radio, it's using the 120 volt bulb because it's pretty tricky to get a 6 volt or any steady voltage type light bulb type supply in a radio of this sort. Yeah, I don't know that I can do anything really. I think I'm just going to have to put the dead bulb back in. Maybe find out somehow it is good. What did you do with it? Did I throw it in with all my lights? Yeah. I think I cleverly stole the bulb here. Yeah. Okay. At least by putting the bulb back in, if somebody down the road really wants to change it, they know what it is. They have the bulb. Okay. Let's set that tube in. I resoldered this, but it didn't take, so I'm just going to solder this wire right onto the speaker. That'll be the best way to deal with that. Okay, let's put it in the cabinet as soon as I find it and see what happens here. I have a bad feeling about this. Okay, we want to watch this front very carefully now. Coming in, coming in. Okay, what just happened there? So I can see already the bottom of the red pointer is striking the curled up edge down here. And it's just so far back, I can't stop there. I can't screw it back in. The back won't be on the radio properly. How much further do I have to go in? Ooh, ooh, to there, right to there. That was a terrible sound. What was that sound? Did this come off? No, actually, this is being pushed on a little harder. Oh, it's, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's totally locked the pointer. Pinched it right in place. So this is not going to work because this piece has curled under so much. Oh boy, what do you do about that? Yeah, uncurl these things? Well, when you're standing and looking at the radio like this, you don't see anything below here. So it would be possible to cut this right off and then somehow fill this with something. Boy, I wouldn't want to rush at that. As soon as you try to cut this, you try to cut it, it's brittle. So instead of it just cutting nice and being sheared, it's going to shatter, and it'll shatter in directions that you can't control. That's what I would be really worried about. Heat it up and flatten it out. No, I can't imagine that. And that reminds me of a story I'm going to tell you now, only because it's just an example of the crazy things teenagers do. Not me, my friend. My friend got this great idea. He's going to go to the store, buy a record, bring it home, record the record, and then he's going to take the record back. But of course, you can't take the record back in good condition because they'll, why are you bringing this back? And he just say, I don't like it. And I say, sorry, we don't accept returns because you probably tape recorded it, which was true. So I come over to my friend's house. He says, hey, I'm in the back. So I go in the back of the house. His parents had a spare stove back there. And there he is holding the record like this above the stove element. And I said, what are you doing? He goes on. He explains what he's doing. He's going to take the record back, but he wants to warp it first. Okay. So he's holding it over this red hot element and nothing is happening, nothing is happening, nothing is happening. Then all of a sudden the record just droops. He slams it down on the floor, I can't remember where, on the table. He whacks it down with his hand to try to flatten it out a little bit. He ended up with an unbelievably warped record. I mean, it looked like somebody heated it up on a stove and then stomped on it. Is what it looked like. Could hardly get it back into the paper, the envelope the record comes in. The envelope was bent open like this. Off we go to the store. I'm just going along to see what happens. It's my buddy who had all these kinds of not so legitimate ideas. We get in the store. He pulls the record out, shows it to the woman. She doesn't think twice about it. She goes, okay, go get another one. Same one. So we left the store with just a new version of the same record that he... So there you are. That's a funny story. Well, I'm going to go away and think about this before doing anything more with it. Because this is definitely this is a common problem for this type of radio, I'm pretty sure. If I can come up with a decent solution to it, it would be useful. Well, I guess what I'm thinking is, if I put the right cutting tool on my Dremel, perhaps I can just buzz off that whole bottom there. It's particularly curled right in the middle here. It's just a matter, actually, this whole line of glue here this must have been way back there, glued way back there. And I can cut it all the way to really just above the words General Electric, which can't be seen on this side. That would be about halfway up. Let's just try it. Maybe I'm really easy. If this is really easy, I can just trim off a little bit and check it. Trim and check it. Now, is it going to stay in there? Or should I pull it out? It's glued fairly good. I don't think there's too much advantage to getting it out of there at this point. Might as well just try to. I think I can just Dremel along like this. Oh, good luck to me on this.
Okay, now if I sound a little funny, it's because I look like this right now. Yeah, I've got mask on and all that stuff. Because this thing is not really going to cut the plastic, it's going to melt and burn it. Ooh. Now, I need some test practice here. It's not plugged in. Big wheel. Big wheel. Not much clearance. What's up here? That's the top of the plastic. If I go like that, I'm putting a mark right in the plastic. So you need to come along. This. Cutting. Oh boy. Okay, it's not going to get any easier now. I feel like a spaceman. Make sure this is tight. Good.
Yeah. I don't know. That first little bit didn't work worth a hoot. Oh boy. Oh boy. You know, cutting it with shears or scissors or even a nipper cutter. Oh my gosh. Heating it up. Oh, no. Doing a plunge cut right in the middle here. Just trying to go right into it there. Oh, it's almost no clearance. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh man, think I could do that? I'm gonna cut it, and then I'm gonna put the radio in and find out it's not enough. That's what's gonna happen here. I'm gonna take the time to cut it. It's going to be a disaster while I do it, and when I'm done, it's not going to be a satisfactory result. That's what's going to happen if I continue along this journey here, this particular direction. It's literally the most important part of the radio, or one of the most important parts. Clearly, you can't have a radio without a dial. And at this point, no matter how good the radios are working, until I sort out this dial thing, it's a piece of junk. It really is. I really have to try to find another radio with a good dial, but I bet you they all look like this. They have all worked like this. So, wow. It looks like I really need to cut it way up here. And then try to fill this somehow with what? What would you fill that with? A piece of wood. I have no idea. Or just leave it. It actually doesn't look all that bad. It looks worse with my eyeballs than it does on camera. If you put the radio up on a bench a little bit, you wouldn't even see. You wouldn't even see under it. Can I get it out of there to really work on it? Or did I do too good a job gluing it? Now I used the kind of glue that I think is fairly weak. Doesn't feel weak in there. Yeah, I think it's coming. Oh, cracky sound was me hanging on tight to the cabinet. Wow, this glue is stronger than I thought. It's a jackpot. I'm in a jackpot. Okay, so the glue is still soft. I can shove my nail through it, so I must be able to peel it away. Very, very carefully. Sticky glue, but it's definitely got a stretch to it. Come on off there now. Good. Good, good. I'm not too worried about it. I can pull this off pretty good. Cutting it with my fingernail. Cutting into the glue with my fingernail. Try to just weaken it everywhere. Okay. Got it back out. Oh boy. I'm glad I did not use more permanent glues, or worse yet, my old favorite epoxy. So I don't really need to pull this off. But I am. There we go. Good. Amazing. It's amazing. It stood up to that. Torture. So now we can see the real problem with it. Is this part right down in here. Could cut it all the way to here. Cut the whole General Electric right off. Maybe I cut that off and then fit it back in at a different angle as a second piece. Neural Electric. So what if you take a pair of scissors to this? Sure feels brittle, but you know, maybe. If you can cut this with a pair of scissors, I mean, what else can I use? How else could I cut this? So we can nip a little bit here and there down on this bottom edge and see what happens. I need a really... Well, we can test it with a pair of cutters before getting scissors. How brittle is it? So this is kind of... A lot of that glue, I think somebody put on there. I don't know if that's factory or what. Let's see if it shatters. Doesn't seem to. That didn't sound good. It's a shattery sound there. Can't experiment too much here. We would want to come in basically right under this area here, so that there's a straight line right there marking it. Just gonna nip a little bit, listen to the crack. Well, I think there's enough flexibility in there. Another thing I could do, I could trace like a knife. I could run a knife along here a few times. But I have to get a flat edge in there and everything. You can run a knife until you can break it. And then what kind of scissors do you use on this? Great big ugly shears? Like these. These are really old scissors, but they're really great. I just cut a little bit here and we'll see what happens. Cuts like paper. Okay, so I think I got a solution then. Let's use a pair of knives. Use a pair of knives and cut through this thing. I'm not going to do it right away. I'm going to think about it because this is obviously a one-way road. And I cut through this, it's done. If I get halfway through and it shatters through the middle, yeah. So much attention for such an old, somewhat ugly radio. I shouldn't say that within its earshot. Okay, gotta go away and think. Well, I've given lots of time here. A few hours have gone by. No better ideas come to mind. How can I even be sure I'm going to cut it straight? How do I know I can't cut it like this? Like cut it in a curve. To really just cut out the problem area, cut out the very least before I go for the maximum surgical move here. Maybe I could just try a few smaller cuts and see where it gets me. It's very, very hard to check the end result though. Just take a look at this. I'm looking at all the curves that are in this. Just thinking about each one. Like these look just a little different than the rest, the top ones. Some of the material has shrunk right in here. It's shrunk right in here also. But it hasn't shrunk along here. Now you kind of think whatever happens up here would just happen here, but it's not. It's something different has happened here. It's more of a curl. It's not a corner thing. It's the whole thing. The problem would really come where the bottom has risen upwards. You can see that it has in the middle. It's just bringing the bottom edge upwards where it interferes with the piece going across. That's the real problem area. And then there's a edge of glue here or something from a previous thing. You can see it ends right kind of see it. It ends right here. That in itself is part of the problem. And I was worried about trying to remove this for fear of removing all the paint behind here just like it has up here earlier on. Because I thought about just cutting that away. And then I actually jumped, think about it, I jumped all the way to just cut the whole thing off. Yikes. Well, sounds like I should do kind of a curved cut through here. Don't know what's going to happen, and there's some pretty heavy glue. Yeah, basically, if this doesn't work, you know, all the work I've done on this radio is for nothing. So, not something I'm rushing into here. Glue comes up around the front a little bit. What if I try picking a little off just to see what happens? Just try up here. Use my fingernail because I can tell best what's happening with it. Yeah, it's on there really tight. Is that really glue? Did the plastic do that? No, because it's gone off here. For sure it's glue somebody's put in there. See it. Could be original in the manufacturer. For all I know, it's original glue. Or this thing started shrinking at some point in its life. And some previous owner tried to repair it by tucking it down with glue. It's a little like, there's a lot of power, I would imagine, in this piece of plastic over a long period of time shrinking. Put tension on the glue and just pull it away. Okay, so back to the scissor thing then. You can remove all this glue. That would really lower it. We'll try to just trim off this glue. That's what I'm going to do. That's it. That's the decision. There we go. Trim off the glue. We'll know within about half an inch if this is, if you can cut through this stuff. Ooh. Ah. Well, the part that flew away is the part I'm trying to get rid of. Let's go a little further. Oh boy. This is nothing like cutting that other piece of plastic. Now's the Dremel time. Now's the Dremel time for sure. Just Dremel right along there. It's pretty rugged, actually.
Okay, here goes nothing. Here goes everything.
Ooh, boy. Well, I'm going to give my room a couple of minutes to kind of, for the plastic smoke that's floating around in here to go away. And then we're going to give this thing a try again. in the radio and see if I succeeded. I just can't afford to get this upside down. I have to see it to believe it. Yeah, of course. There we go. Let's fit it in. Looking at the contact, where the thing. See, the last time I put the glue on, I think I put it too low. So this time I want to put it right where it wants to make contact. Put it right there. And it's going to be the same thing on the other side. Okay. This is where I glue it in upside down. Distinct feeling this is too far out. We'll see. Okay. Give it a few minutes. Okay, before the glue gets too dry, let's give this a try, and we'll see how it goes. Hitting the bottom still, and long from being in. No, how far in does it have to go? Ooh, all the way up, way up there. Okay, there's another approach here. Another whole different approach. So I don't have to go further with this. I just leave this like it is. I think I've done the most I should do. I think it's okay. But I think I have another approach. Okay. That's to trim this. So, like a lot of things, when they're gone, nobody misses them. So, if I were to just chop that baby off right there, boom. There's still lots to see. You're kind of looking this way into the radio. This part's actually kind of meaningless, really. Now, having devalued it, I'm inclined to chop it off. Now, how do you get that off there? So I can see what they've done here. They've taken this piece of metal, which comes down here, which would be a flat piece like this, and then they've crimped it up onto the plastic sheet, the red plastic sheet. And for sure, I mean, you have to assume this plastic sheet is nothing but brittle, super duper brittle. There's a good chance if I go to chop this, I'll have major problems chopping through the metal. The metal, as I try to chop it, will squeeze. This is another Dremel job. This is another Dremel job. Yeah, if I try to squeeze chop it, it's going to shatter this plastic in a somewhat uncontrolled way. It could even, in the worst case, break the whole thing off. I mean, glue works wonders, but why go there? Dremel it. I'm thinking, well, how much would you cut off? How do I know how much to cut off? Well, you cut off just what you need to cut off. How much is that? How do I come to terms with that? You can hardly really see this when it's in the radio. In fact, I really don't know what's going on because I've never been able to really push the radio fully in and then really see what happens. The plastic piece is curled enough, and there's enough of it left. If you didn't have this there, it could be you push the radio into its proper place and the curl is running into this plate. The reason I'm saying that is it's just kind of drawing to my attention how far out of place that. But the idea is to reduce this so it works okay in whatever space there is. So what I'm saying is there's another problem here, and that is when this is put really into correct position, this plate is going to push on that plastic. So what's the problem with that? What is the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is I could go ahead and do something here and then find out there's another problem, solve the other problem, then realize what I've done here wasn't needed. Then basically chopping off the bottom of this was not really needed. You gotta think of it this way, these radios are heading one way, downwards, and I don't want to help it any. I mean, its future doesn't look all that great. Actually, this guy's future does look pretty good. I think there's a home he's going to go to already. So, one of the greatest pleasures in these radios is turning the dial, hearing the stations, and seeing the pointer, and all that stuff. And if this part isn't working right, again, the radio's really a drag. It could also be the case that the shape of that plastic changes. If I were to examine, let me start over here. If I were to examine or pick a certain place to cut this off based on an examination done of what this looks like in the radio, it could be the case that I could figure that all out, cut it off, but then find out that down here the situation's different and more is needed to be cut off. Which the feature of this radio is, one of the features is this curved dial and this piece which would fit right in the curve, of course. This piece would fit right in the curve. this piece is showing me what the real curve should be. How can that help me? Make a model of this. Oops, don't break it. Make a model of this. At least I could compare this curve easily then to the curve on the thing. The dial plate, which is now glued. I can't bring it over and make this careful examination. Yeah, you know, if I didn't have it glued in place, I could hold it here. I could figure out a lot of these things pretty easily. Should I pull it out? Should I pull it out? Or leave it? I think it's in position in the radio ultimately where I want it to be, so leaving it there has that advantage that I got it in there. I have to get it in there again. I might find out getting it out here it's not all that helpful. Holding it here, because again I don't know the distance that it sits from the radio front. The other thing is I could reshape this and then put the radio in, the plate pushes on the plastic, and either I've taken off too much or not enough once the plastic is in its final. If I broke this right off, red thing gone. Remember, what's gone people don't miss. they don't know what they're missing, right? So red thing gone, black thing left as long as it is, or shortened, boom, with the cutter. So what that says is don't be so scared of just chopping this thing off. If the red thing disappears, just get chopping. I'm going to stop and take a break. Okay, I think I've got a way of kind of measuring these things and comparing them. Let's give it a little try here. Well, let's give it a big try. Okay. We're going to do a little try, but maybe we'll try the big try. Let's try the big one. Why not? So what am I trying to do? So I want to know, boy oh boy, how am I ever going to figure this out? Well, let's just compare this length with the space available there. Why don't we do that? That's a starter. Okay, that's going to be pretty close. Wow. Okay. Well, it's coming quite low. It's coming quite low. That's another measurement here. This thing comes down to the bottom of the radio. Here. A certain distance. That distance can be measured up. Use the small one. So this pointer will make it all the way down to here. So it wouldn't take much. You wouldn't have to cut much off this. To make a pretty good difference here. The other kind of odd thing about this, when you look at it, oops, yeah, look at it. If you look at it from a more up on the angle I'm on, I see that it actually hangs over the back plate quite a long distance. That's kind of strange. I'm sure the builders had no intention of anybody seeing beyond the edges of this plate. So we do this thing progressively, especially if it turns out chopping this thing doesn't damage the red part. I'm still thinking chopping is really the way to do this. I try to determine a little more about that material, the red material. I'm not gonna cut it. I'm just gonna feel it with this. Hope I don't cut it. I'm trying to judge how hard it is. Can I get away with cutting it? If you have a large sheet of a material like this, cutting it in here, you're forcing through the shears. You're putting a huge force outwards this way, and that's what causes the shattering, and everything goes to goes kaput. If you're cutting it close to the end here, then it'll probably cause a bend to take place in the metal, and you'll get away with it. You'll get away with it if you cut a little bit off at the end, because the metal will bend and absorb the stress. Now, this metal, unfortunately, has been folded into like a C shape. It's really strong. The way it's for its size, it's really strong. It's going to resist that quite a bit. So that might just pop this piece of plastic out. Is it glued in there, or is it just pressured? Can I pull it out? Can I pull it out? Yeah, the answer seems to be no. Yeah, then the next question would be, oh my God, can I put it in? Yeah, it's not coming out. It doesn't slide up by any wild chance. No. So I nip a little bit off the bottom here. Nobody's ever going to miss that. You can nip the plastic and leave the metal. These light cutters that are thin bladed cutters, not really big ones. Just try to nip the very end of it here. See what happens. So it just flew out. Ting, it's gone. So that time some crushing happened. And it still came out. There's nothing in the metal part now. Just keep going. Maybe I'll shape it a bit if I can. I think I could. This is called nibbling. Buy special tools. They're called nibblers to do this. So I can see the red plastic is still down in the metal here. Now, maybe am I already there? I've already done enough? I don't think so. Nibble my finger. So you wouldn't even know I'd done this yet. I can get rid of this metal down here. Now, how can I chop that metal off and not cause a fracturing up through here? Let me chop it this way. Chop it one side at a time. Try to chop it. Oh, I don't think I can do it with these. This is steel. These are looking for copper. Dremel it away. Dremel it away. Why am I doing this? I'm all happy. What am I doing? I don't know what I need to do anymore. Just need to take that off. Just my bigger choppers. Okay, so if I chop down like this, all the cutting surfaces are flush on this one. Oh, that's good. I can get away with it. Going in for power. Ready? It's gonna hurt a bit. Nobody even know. I didn't make a video of this, it would be kept secret. Okay, hey, that was neat. Okay, now it's not enough necessarily. Let's find out. So the radio's almost in place. Let me try to move this over this one. Oh, okay, okay. For that, I heard something right in here. No. So it looks really close from up here, but it looks also like what I was saying, that when I push the radio in further, we'll bend the plastic up a bit. What exactly is bending the plastic up? Oh, pointer's pinned. Oh yeah, pointer's pinned. But it's really close. Now, how close is the radio to being in there? So we can see the screw. You can see how far I have to move this radio in. Oh, it's right there. Oh my gosh, it's right there. It's right there. And the other one. What happened to the other side? There it is. That's... yeah, something is pushing back from the front. I think there. The radio is actually in its screwed in position now, I think. Knobs are sticking out. This one's not out as far as the other, so I think it's probably supposed to be out further. Let's pull it. Now, will it tune? No, bottom is pinned, but it's really close. So I think I got the idea and the technique, and it's just didn't quite carry it on far enough. Okay, so we just do the process again. Just nibble back another chunk. Can't say I've done anything like this ever before in my life. This is a new deal. Yeah, don't wiggle it, man. We don't want to do this again, so I'll go a little further. Maybe I'll take off this corner. Don't wiggle. Don't wiggle. Shavers. It's just such a natural thing. Okay, now we'll try the flush cut here. I'm gonna have to do this a little differently. I need to get my hand down below the edge of my bench here. Get this angle right. Okay. Once again, squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Squeezing ever harder, 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 harder. Really pretty darn hard now. Oh, I didn't put it on the power. I didn't put it in the power setting. Okay. And now, easy as can be. Snap it right off. Get away with this again. That looks more appropriate. This radio has waited, what, 60 years to get its pointer shaved. It's a whole new phase in radio repair. Let's put that on my card. Tubes tested, pointer shaved. Okay, don't talk so boldly so soon. That's right. So this is in position now. This is the way it should be. So it should be a little further over here, I'm sure. What's happening? Oh, what happened right there? Some it's not the nothing to do with the dial plastic. Now I'm looking to see what the real clearance is, if I can see it. There's all kinds of weird reflections on this thing. I don't think it's much. Well, there's something there. I think I can feel it on that one. I can feel it there. And the clearance, I can see a huge clearance. The shape of this is sticking out a little bit over here. So it's perfect. It's good. Oh, holy smokes. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's put some screws in it. Plug it in, turn it on. Okay, reached the point of doing a test. Hey, remember that mystery capacitor? What the heck was that ever doing in the radio? We will never know. Okay. Full power. Switch is off. Just to get a look at it's really pretty shiny, isn't it? Yeah, I cleaned this with nothing but tap water. Tap water and a paper towel. I didn't put any kind of... I did. I put some dish detergent, a little wee bit. There's still a little bit of dusty up in here. So but not so bad. It has an awful lot of what are probably water drop stains. I don't know what they are, but you can't really get them off something like this. I mean, you can see these on the front. But generally, not bad at all. In fact, at a glance, you'd never really notice all that stuff. You're too busy looking at this beautiful dial. Wow! Then you'd say, hey, does that thing work? The answer is not supposed to be no. Oh, you know what? Haven't hooked the speaker up. Oh my gosh. Oh my. Okay. Okay, let's give it a try. Wouldn't normally find anything up here at this time of day. Oops.
Like I said, whether you agree or not that the NFL kind of off-season is off and running, there's so much news today and so much content that they're giving us. Let's start maybe with the Dallas Cowboys placing a franchise tag on Dak Prescott. Did they make the right decision?
That's pretty good. That's definitely good. It's just one continuous mash of noise. No doubt because of the computer equipment that I'm using to shoot this video. That's where a lot of it is coming from, I'm sure.
Jamais le Canada fermé à frontière des États-Unis. On écoute les essentiels. Nous coordonnons extrêmement attentivement avec les États-Unis. J'ai parlé plusieurs fois au cours des derniers jours.
Whoops, sorry. Bump the volume there.
Home groups of 50 or more discouraged. Also, crackdown coming at the border. More on that in just a second. But first, 680's Mo McCratchy joins us live with the latest from the province. Moment.
You gotta shut that down. Voluntary doesn't work. Hey, look, I'm just on the other side of that. You know, I think a lot of... It's not even necessarily about those people contracting it. It's that they could be carriers without having any idea that they are carriers. So...
certain theme to all that stuff there. So this radio is performing, not the greatest. But it's not bad. It does receive and sounds okay. And you know, down here in my shop, it's very hard to give it a fair test. It really needs to be out here and somewhere else. But under the right circumstances, and especially in the evening, it could be quite surprising how well this works. So, but it's got a life ahead of it again. because when it first came into my shop, it was 1 foot in the grave. So great. Now just a small treat. How about a peek at the next radio? This is a Hallicrafters radio. Not a very well regarded one, I'm afraid, but we're going to at least check it out and see if it's worth putting some time and effort into it. It looks like it's in really good shape. We'll see. Thanks a lot for watching the series on this radio. I think there's quite a few of these around. This is the second one that I think I've worked on. So we'll see. We'll see. Thanks. Bye.